guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Reading Bear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new legal advice content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first one is titled, Homeowner Association Wants Camper Removed. Neighbor on Homeowner Association Board has won. Can I delay action until his is removed? South Carolina. Someone complained about my camper in the backyard. Covenant clearly states no campers. No argument from me, it was previously overlooked. Nothing about it being covered or usage, just flat out no campers, trailers and heavy equip on the property, regardless of visibility. Listed under nuisances. However, a member of the board has had the same sized camper plus boat, also not allowed, on his property prior to me moving in. I wish to be compliant but raise the obvious question. Am I being singled out, and is it reasonable to delay moving the camper until neighbor/board member removes his? I wish to be rational and reasonable, but not individually burdened. Have no idea what the reach of enforcement is on homeowner associations, so that may answer my question as well. Update. Camper is sold. Homeowner Association President, my immediate neighbor, notified. We now have others on our very small street who still have campers, boats and even cars parked in their backyard. These appear to be of no concern to the Homeowner Association President, and my best bet is they will stay. I'm not looking to punish my other neighbors, in fact we all get along great. But with the overwhelming sense of being singled out, burdened and forced to sell my belongings or incur storage costs, I would find it reasonable to ensure continuity and compliance with rest of the neighborhood. Otherwise, yeah, just me. Do I become that neighbor that keeps writing letters to the homeowner association, or can I ensure the others are being equally notified? I can drop it too. The next one is titled, Police Kicked in My Door Thinking That I Am a Drug Dealer. Yesterday evening my boyfriend and I were getting ready to go visit a friend when we heard a loud bang at the door. We were confused and thought we were about to get robbed. Then the door crashes open and a bunch of cops ran in with their guns pointed at us, screaming at us to get on the ground. We did what they said and cuffed us. They took my boyfriend outside and they sat me down in the kitchen. They started asking me where the drugs were and I had no idea what they were talking about, so I told them about the little bit of pot I had in my spare room, but that's not what they were after. They kept saying that they know I have been dealing drugs and that if I lied to them they were going to tear my house apart, and kept telling me I was going to jail. When I kept telling them that I didn't have any more drugs, the one called me a liar and refused to talk to me. Maybe I should have prefaced this with the fact that I am not a drug dealer, and besides the little bit of pot, there were in fact no drugs in my house. They kept looking in my freezer and like 3 different cops asked me why I had frozen rats in there, to which I pointed out the giant ducking aquarium directly behind them with the giant snake in it. They took pictures of the inside of my freezer, including my snake food and some frozen meat. While they were searching I asked if the handcuffs were necessary. I was crying and I was really uncomfortable. They said yes and that I was under arrest, at which point I wanted to remind them that they hadn't read me my rights or shown me a warrant, but I was scared shitless and was afraid of antagonizing them. I'm not really sure how long they were here, but it didn't feel like they looked very hard. Mostly they dug through our desk drawers and kept looking in the fridge and freezer. Apparently they were looking for shrooms, I finally found out when I saw the warrant. Finally they finished. Of course they didn't find anything except the pot that I was completely honest with them about. Then they gave me the warrant and the report and told me to expect something in the mail and left. On their way out I heard the one that had been questioning me say, "Probably nothing is going to happen," but I wasn't sure if he was talking to me or one of the other officers. The same one told my boyfriend that they were going to come back with another warrant, but I think he might have just been trying to scare him because he had called the cop a liar when they tried to tell him I was a drug dealer. Some of them left in a green van and we put 2 and 2 together. The trailer next to ours had been empty for months, but that green van was almost always parked there. Apparently they had been watching our street for months. We had seen cops on our street before at other people's houses, but we live in a trailer park so we never thought anything of it. I just cannot fathom how they could have thought I was dealing drugs. I work a full-time job and a part-time job. I come and go from my house to go to work and sometimes run some errands. In the little bit of free time I sit at home watching TV with my boyfriend. We never have people over. Most of our friends are married and have kids and we don't see them much. So anyways, now my front door is busted and the only clue I have as to what is going to happen next is expect something in the mail and maybe they will come kick down my door again with another warrant. I am just so ducking freaked out. I have no idea how they could have thought I was a drug dealer and it's driving me crazy. I'm so scared that I can't sleep or eat. I don't even feel safe in my own home right now. I have already told my dad and told him that I might need a lawyer. I guess my question is, what should I expect? And do I have any legal means of finding out how the duck they could have possibly thought I was a drug dealer? And what could happen if they decide to do anything about the pot, considering it's my first offense and have an otherwise clear record? Edit. Looking at my warrant, it says on the warrant that there should be a signed affidavit attached, which there is not. Maybe that is what they intend on sending us in the mail? We are faxing the warrant to my boyfriend's lawyer. Update. Somebody requested an update on this and what has happened since. Short version. Nothing really. Long version. We called the police department several times trying to get a hold of the dickbag that kicked our door down. They kept telling us that they would have him call us back. He never did, so we kept calling. We finally got a hold of him and asked if we could have the affidavit or at least some explanation as to why they thought I was a drug dealer. He said, "I don't have anything to say to you. You'll find out when we take you to court. Maybe you should get a lawyer," and hung up on my boyfriend. My boyfriend had already contacted his lawyer, but he was pretty slow to get back with us. When he finally did, he told us that he had found that the police department has no legal obligation to give us an affidavit or even an explanation. At least here in Michigan anyways. He advised us to let it go, as further harassing the police department wouldn't get us anywhere and maybe even make the situation worse. So we've pretty much given up. We have since had to put our door together with bolts and put in a new doorknob since we can't afford a new door. We now lock the deadbolt and the doorknob even while we are in the house. We know it won't keep them out if they decide to come back and terrorize us some more, but it still makes us feel a little better. It boggles my mind sometimes to think about how I've never worried about being robbed, but now we lock our doors because we are terrified of the people that are supposed to protect us. We now check the mail every day. The last time I had to appear in court, for a fender bender ticket, I didn't receive my summons until after the court date and they lied about when it was sent out. So not only did I have to pay the ticket, but I had to pay a fine for not showing up to court. So now I'm paranoid as duck they are going to pull the same crap. My sister's husband, who is also an attorney, said that if there is an ongoing investigation that could explain why they refused to give me any information. I find this fairly likely since they raided the house across the street from us just a week or two ago. I swear they are just going door to door kicking people's doors down because we live in a nice neighborhood and they don't have anything better to do. I am now on several medications to manage my anxiety. For about the first month after the incident, I was taking 3 to 5 Xanax a day because people kept bringing it up and wanting to talk about it, and every time I did I'd have a severe panic attack. I had to take a sleep aid every night, sometimes I still do, because I couldn't close my eyes without reliving it in my head. I feel absolutely and utterly violated, and it will haunt me to the day I die that I, as US citizen, have no right to know why the police felt the need to kick down my door, handcuff me, threaten me, blatantly lie to my face, and to my boyfriend, and tear apart my house. If anybody has any further advice for me, it is definitely welcome. I live in Michigan. It was the Macomb County Police Department that raided my house. I have a warrant but no affidavit. If anybody has any idea as to how to get them to tell me why the duck they thought I was a drug dealer, I would love to hear it. The next one is titled, "Neighbor's Tree Fall Damaged My Fence." Georgia. I'm in Georgia. The neighboring property, in a neighborhood/suburb, is a rental property owned by an LLC. I have never met the owners and the tenants don't speak very good English, so we have no neighborly relationship other than the occasional wave if we are both out at the same time. Early this morning, a huge branch, almost half of the tree, split off a tree on their property and fell onto my property, damaging our fence. The weather is clear and there is no wind. We have left a note asking the neighbors to text or call us with the contact information for the owners or have them contact us directly. The tree has mostly green leaves, but there are a few branches with very brown and dead leaves, and the Y where it split off is really black with white splotches. The damage to the fence is hard to photograph since it's basically just leaning over now, but it's basically the whole length of the fence that will need repair. It's my understanding that it is our responsibility to remove or repair unless the landowner knew or reasonably should have known that the tree was diseased, decayed, or in an otherwise dangerous condition. Who determines what is reasonable for the owner to have known? Are dead leaves on a tree in the middle of summer enough? Do they get some kind of leniency because it's a rental and the owner is not here on a regular basis? Update. The owner's brother apparently owns a landscaping company and he came over today to remove the tree. He said that they will take care of repairing the fence too because his tenants also benefit from the shared fence. The last one is titled, Slumlord did an illegal lockout while me and my family were moving out. Pennsylvania. I knew on the day we moved into the property that the landlord was going to be a problem when I first called him and asked him what was wrong with the garbage disposal, and his answer was, "What garbage disposal?" So when the pandemic hit, I already knew what to expect. I gave him notice before I was late with my rent that I anticipated it might be a possibility, and to my surprise he was understanding. For about a week. Then, even after I was able to pay half my rent, he began to harass me for my stimulus check and unemployment. At the time we moved in, he insisted that I have a cosigner, and so my mother agreed to, so he also started harassing me for her information and stimulus check. I explained to him she had just gotten out of the hospital and I would not get her involved, but he didn't care. He continued to hound us both for our stimulus checks. Making matters worse, our central air unit, that he never got replaced, finally crapped out on us and our lease was almost up. Well, he had just sent me a new lease option to renew for a year, but when I sent him the message saying I was going to put the rent into escrow, he rescinded the extension and gave us a month to move. Even though it was difficult, I found a new place for us to live. It wouldn't be available until the month after our lease was up, and when we told him that, he refused to extend the lease for a month. Instead, he posted a letter stating that we were holding his property and owed him $6,000 for that month. The house was hot and at times reached up to 94 degrees, but we packed and made preparations to move. Finally, the day came that the new house was ready and we began moving in right away. With the pandemic spiking again, we thought it might be best if we didn't use a moving company. Not that I could afford it after being fired, so we did it ourselves. It took longer than we expected, but by the time we got to the basement we realized there was a problem. A pipe had started leaking and now the basement smelled like mold and mildew and the carpet was saturated with water. Our things were ruined and the smell was unbearable. I looked online and found a clean-out crew that I could afford and hired them to help us with the basement. I left a note for the landlord that we would be done that Monday and leave the keys on the step inside since it was obvious that he had been in there. The next day we went back to gather the rest of what we could salvage and get ready for the cleaning crew, and the landlord had locked us out. We took a video and then left, and upon returning home got a call from an extremely agitated police officer. He wanted to know if we were just at the property, and when I told him yes, he said the landlord saw us and called them. He kept saying it was a civil matter now and demanding my new address. I told him I didn't feel comfortable giving it to him and he took a nasty tone. "So you're refusing to identify yourself to a police officer?" I told him not really since you called my number, and he got even more angry and hung up on me. So I had to call the station to verify that it was even a real officer that called me. Well, after verifying he was actually an officer, I asked how I could get a copy of his body cam that he used to record the landlord locking us out. After getting the information that would be needed, they gave me a special unit number to request a standby from an officer whenever we go to the property. I did not hear anything more from my landlord until he started demanding that we come clear out the house. He claimed we abandoned our belongings and not that he was keeping us from retrieving them. First, he said we could come as often as we wanted whenever we wanted to get our property. Then he said, we had to hire movers to do it and they had to watch. Then he said, we couldn't come in, only the movers. Then he said the movers had to be licensed to come in and they had to sign an affidavit not to sue him if they get injured. Finally, when I stopped agreeing to his ridiculous terms, he said we had 10 days to retrieve our belongings before he had a cleanout crew come and dispose of it. Except, out of the 10 days he really only gave us 2. So now I am scrambling to get the cleanout crew again and turn the power back on. Is it a legal lockout if he doesn't give us notice or take us to court? Can he claim that our belongings are abandoned if he won't let us retrieve them? Can he sue me for damages to the property when he didn't give us time to make minor repairs or clean it before locking us out? Update. We had to go back to the old house because some of our stuff was still there and he changed the locks and had to have an officer on standby to make sure things went smoothly to start. The landlord left after we started moving stuff. That was thoroughly looked through by the landlord without permission. Then his wife showed up. Why? No clue. She said a few words to the officer and then sat in her car. Then the officer left because he had things to do. We left to put stuff in storage, came back, saw her leaving, parked and saw her pull back up demanding to know when the clean-out crew was coming. We didn't tell her because it's none of her business. Then we load the car again and head back to the storage unit, except this witch was following us. They've been trying to figure out our new address forever, also none of their business, and she followed us thinking we were heading there. My son filmed the whole thing, but we lost her before getting to the storage unit. We called the officer. He calls the landlord's wife to tell her not to follow us and stay parked at the old house. A few hours later, we're back at the new house and I'm unloading the car when I watch this crazy witch pull up next to our house and peel off when she realized she got caught. She followed us again to the new house. We called the cops, told them what happened, and a report was filled. The officer from earlier came back and said that sadly he can't do anything about it because she hadn't technically harassed us yet. Somehow following someone after being told to stop doesn't constitute harassment. Then later, after the cleanup crew has filled their truck with our ruined moldy stuff from the basement because a pipe was leaking and the slumlords never fixed it, that crazy witch started harassing them too, asking for their contact information. I asked her to leave them alone and let them leave, but this witch started complaining, saying it was her business. So my daughter said, "Is it your business to follow us to our new house?" She started shouting, saying she lives in the old house. Not true. They never actually lived there, just inherited the property, so we called the cops again. They came by, made sure it wasn't too serious of an emergency, took a statement, and told her to leave while we're packing because she doesn't need to be there. I asked the officer if we could press charges against her, but he said no because she was legally allowed to be in that neighborhood because she owned a property there. Then later, the landlord shows up, asking when we'll be out, what's going on, as if he didn't already know. Then he started yelling the same crap she did, trying to get a reaction out of us, but we didn't cave and told him to leave. When we did a search, we actually found out that she never lived there, nor is she listed as an owner, nor is she actually married to the landlord. So since she was the one that we videoed following us, is that an invasion of privacy? Can we do anything about that? Thanks for listening.